So I'm very interested in nostalgia in a medical way almost. Like
Totally.
And what it triggers in us. So I love that you found it. I think that gave you kind of ownership over it in that way. You're like, you sought it out. And this is my big question is because kids can see whatever they want on demand now, will they be less attached to it? Like, I feel like you found it. Like, you had to wait for it to be on. You had to wait for that next episode. I think that's what causes this nostalgia stuff in us.
Really, really does. Like, you had to be in the right place at the right time to know even about this thing. Hey there, welcome to the Winx Forever podcast. I'm Lola, creator, host, and lifelong Winx fan. I'm taking a deep dive into the very cool universe of Winx Club. So whether you've been a fan since 2004, like myself, or you vaguely remember the show from your childhood, or even if you're being introduced to it for the first time, welcome. This is the Winx Forever podcast. Hello, fairy friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Winx Forever podcast. I am your host, Lola Valentine. And it has been a minute. Not gonna lie, I have missed this. But 2025 really it's been kicking my butt, you guys. I'm not gonna lie. I was sick for like a month after this interview, and then I just have not been able to catch back up. But we are finally here. And this episode, I'm so excited to finally share with you guys. We have the insanely talented and kind and just all around just cool person, Tara Sands. She is a professional voice actress. She worked at 4Kids Entertainment during the heyday of Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, just so many iconic shows. And she has a podcast series called 4Kids Flashback, where she and her co-host Steve Yurko are interviewing anybody and everybody that will come on their show that worked on 4Kids. And it's really, really cool. I'm super excited for you guys to hear this episode because we dive into some really niche facts about the 4Kids dub of Winx Club. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear it. Let me know what you guys think of these crazy kind of mysteries that we've uncovered and just things about the series that you might not, know if you don't listen to the 4Kids Flashback. So, without further ado, here is my conversation with Tara Sands of the 4Kids Flashback. Hello, fairy friends. Welcome back to the Winx Forever podcast. I am your host, Lola Valentine. This week, we have a very special guest. I'm so excited. We have Tara Sands with us today. We're going to be talking about all things 4Kids and her podcast, the 4Kids Flashback podcast. Tara, welcome to the show.
Hi. I was not lucky enough to be on Winx, but I'm still very happy to be here.
I know. It's so sad because I feel like there were so many awesome female powerhouses that came through 4Kids that you've gotten to interview, that kind of just missed that window of female centric shows that they started cranking out.
I know. I was Winx adjacent, I feel like.
Yes.
Well, okay, so I looked something up for you because I knew I'd be talking to you about this. So, because I couldn't remember if I auditioned for Winx. And I did.
Oh my God.
On Monday, January 12th, it says all I have in here, it says odd for Chris. I guess it was Chris Collet at 4Kids for Winx. Oh my God. And I didn't get it. And then later that day, I went back to work on Pokemon, which is so funny. And then, wait, this is the part I thought you'd find funny. Then, many years later, on August 6, 2013, I auditioned for the other version of Winx and also didn't get that one.
The Nick version? Yeah, because they used all of their in-house people, and that was such a mistake, but we can get into that.
But yeah, I was trying to see I'm doing a Winx podcast. I should see if I have any history with Winx.
That's so wild.
So there it is.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow, what could have been? That's
well, you know what I realized too? I was like by that point, I think I was like almost moving to LA or whatever.
Right.
I was like 1 foot out the door. I was not doing a ton at 4Kids at that point, so it was okay.
Man.
But
yeah. Well, Tara, I mean, as we just alluded to, you worked at 4Kids like in its heyday as it was ramping up. You were on Pokemon. You're the original voice of Bulbasaur and so many others. I mean, gosh, probably even ones that you don't even remember and are not credited for somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah.
Yeah. But you guys, if you guys do not listen to Tara's podcast with her co-host Steve Yurko, their show is so interesting. It's such a cool like peek behind the curtain of what the industry was back then, and like kind of like the it was the epicenter really of like what and like where animation was going, why it is the way it is today. Like there's a lot that was so formative during those years that 4Kids was really spearheading.
They took a chance, like you know, for all the hate the 4Kids gets, and I'm not, you know, I understand all that.
Yeah.
We really get into them taking that first chance on Pokemon when everyone was saying no.
Yeah.
And who knows what would have happened? Like if, like, it's like that alternate universe where Pokemon never got translated to English, you know? What? Yeah. Would it have been Digimon? Would it have been something else? Or would those shows not have happened? Like, it's such a... And today the anime boom is crazy. I mean, and obviously Winx is not anime, but I still put it in that category of dubbed shows and taking a chance on outside properties that maybe wouldn't have gotten made. So
no, absolutely. And I mean, is that that's exactly right. The industry was so different, you know, back then. I mean, and it was pre the internet, truly. Like, we maybe had email.
We had a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Little bit.
It was like the little, like, you know, infant, the internet, as we know it today, was in its infancy, like, truly.
Yeah.
And we didn't have access the way that we do now to other cultures the way that we do. And so it was really just like spoon feeding America's like children like this like new culture that like we didn't get all the time.
Yeah, well, I always tell people, like, our first episode we tackled the donut issue in Pokemon because everyone was so angry about the donuts, and poor Michael Hagney, who wrote that episode, was like, I didn't mean to start like an international incident. It was late at night. I was writing. I didn't know what they were. I just said donuts. I didn't think about it ever again. And now I'm getting yelled at. So
right. And anybody working in like corporate America or any kind of like, you know, like office job that has deadlines like that understands that pace of work. And it's like, oh, well then, yeah, like I like, you know, that happens daily, you know, or like weekly, like with something. And
you have to make a decision. You have to get something finished. And again, like I think in retrospect, we all think, oh yeah, how cool would it have been to have leaned into the different cultures and to and that stuff. But that wasn't the trend at the time. And, you know, they made no qualms about, we are Americanizing this show. That is what we are doing. And maybe that's why kids got into it, and then that was, I always call that their gateway anime, and now those are the people that love anime and Japanese culture and did more investigation for themselves.
No, absolutely. I mean, I was literally one of those kids. Like, it was because of 4Kids TV and the Foxbox, or Foxbox, then 4Kids, then CW, 4Kids, whatever it evolved.
Yes.
Yeah,
I can't keep track of other things. Yeah,
same. But like, it was because of the shows that I watched on 4Kids that, like, you know, my little brother and I like got, you know, able to grow up together watching the same shows on Saturday mornings, and we're introduced into these shows that we wouldn't have watched anywhere else, honestly.
Right.
You know, like
when you were young, did you realize that shows like Winx and Pokemon were not American shows? Did that even occur to you as a kid?
So it didn't until like really like anime like started becoming kind of more popular. I knew what Sailor Moon was, and I knew that was like Japanese, but it it did never like occur to me. I just thought it was like a really cool show that was really well done.
That's all it has to be.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
all it has to be. Yeah.
But I want to get into kind of why you started For Kids Flashback. I know you talk about it on your podcast, but for friends who have not listened to the show, like why you specifically started For Kids Flashback, the podcast, and why now?
Yeah, well, I mean, now I wish I had done it 10 years ago, obviously, because people's memories if people don't have great long-term memory, myself included. But I started doing conventions, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. And I didn't know there was an interest in this stuff. I really didn't know that anyone cared. I couldn't believe I was invited to conventions. I still feel weird about it. It's still, if you told me that we'd be talking about Pokemon 20 years later, I'd say you were crazy. And I'm not, we all say this, like we're all shocked that this is still a thing. So I didn't know the interest was there. And then I would get asked questions about the company, I would get yelled at for One Piece. I was like, what do you mean? I didn't know that edits were being made. I just went and did my job. Like I just saw the finished thing usually. And I was like, why are they yelling at me? I had nothing to do with that. I had a tiny character. And it just was interesting to me. And I was reconnecting with these old friends at these conventions who I love so much. I mean, these are some of the greatest people. And I wanted to do something about For Kids, but I kept looking for an angle. And then I realized it didn't need an angle. I'm just going to talk to everyone who worked there and see what happens, because I was looking for like a controversy or because I listened to so much true crime. I was trying to make it like this something that it didn't have to be. And I just wanted to get people's questions answered, honestly. And then I learned about lost media through this. And now I'm like, oh, I want to find all this. So it took on kind of a life of its own in that way. So that's why I started, just to answer people's questions. And because I couldn't believe no one had done it yet. Yeah. Honestly, I'm bummed no one did it 10 years ago, because maybe we would have remembered more. Yeah. But if no one was going to do it, I was like, I better do it before it's all forgotten.
For real. No, and I mean, that's such a service, because I mean, you're in that sweet spot of like, it's nostalgic for us. It's like preserving media, which is like such a service. And I mean, it's just so cool to hear. I mean, and I tell people all the time, I recommend your podcast to so many people.
Thank you. I do for you too when I'm at conventions, because if someone is like talks about, as soon as they say Winx, I go, oh, well, then there's another show you need to listen to.
Oh, wow. Thank you. So kind.
Always. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, but even like my friends that are like into just like animation, like cartoon stuff, like I'm always like, hey, like you've got to listen to this show, because it's just such a fun, like I've loved like all of the stuff that like has nothing to do with like the voice acting stuff too, like the business side of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the licensing side of stuff.
Yes. I love, and that's my interest too. I find that really interesting. I also love finding something interesting about someone who maybe is not the most fascinating person. Right. You know what I mean? All of a sudden you're like, wait, you juggle? Like, I don't know, like, or whatever it is. But also we're getting into the nitty gritty. Like, I was at a convention and someone said, like, I don't see a lot of female engineers in the business. I said, oh, listen to this episode with Susie Goldish. Yes. She's a female engineer and an editor. Like, so I love that there's these behind the scenes people. I don't think they get highlighted. That was the other reason for the podcast, honestly, is that the actors, we're very lucky that we get to be the face of this thing, but we're such a small, tiny, teeny weeny cog in this bigger machine. It just happens to be our voice or our face or whatever it is. But it's all those behind the scenes people, and not always who you think of. It's not always the director. You know, it's the engineer, and it's at every level. Like, I mean, we interviewed the guy who worked on the cards, the Pokemon cards at Topps. Yes. Like, and his story was unbelievable. He remembered everything, and just and I love those cards. And now I have this whole other feeling when I look at them. It's just, you put like this personality and you picture him working these crazy hours to cut these frames out of the movie to make a card that a kid's going to trade at school. Like, I don't know. There's something really cool about that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I mean, just even from, I mean, me as a professional marketer now, like looking back, you know, as like with now like a different lens of it, like the marketing that had to take place to even like get these shows off the ground is incredible.
Crazy. Well, they were so smart. I mean, for those of you who don't know much about the company, 4Kids started as a licensing company. It had a different name, but then they became 4Kids Media Entertainment. They had a lot of branches, but they were a licensing company. Their money came from toys and stuff, not the cards. They didn't have the Pokemon card license, but they did have the Topps Pokemon card license. Yes. But the lunchboxes, the T-shirts, all that stuff. So Winx was a great property because it's what they call toyetic. I learned that term.
Toyetic. Yes, we love. Yeah, I mean, so even just from that standpoint, like, I mean, your show, like, so many people, if you're just interested in like the epicenter of like kids entertainment, like this is such a good show to listen to, and it's so informative, and you find out some things that you might not realize happen because they're just lost in the ether, just in somebody's like memory bank, that you're just like, oh, and like you uncover it by having conversations like this, and it's so interesting.
Thank you for listening. I do appreciate it.
Of course. I'm so curious, what is your perspective on this time in animation, when 4Kids was kind of starting? And
so like the world of that, like the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah. And, you know, this time, and has your view on the industry shifted any since starting this podcast?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, let's see. So around that time, I'm not like, I don't pretend to know a ton about animation. I love working in it. I don't consume it because it feels like work to me.
For sure.
I watch South Park, so that's my cartoon. On BoJack Horseman. But so this was it is amazing how bits of technology change everything. So this time in animation, the cable channels weren't as dominant as they were. There was no streaming. There was so the great thing about this time period, and this is something I learned in it, that when they put Pokemon on, there was no financial barrier because this was a free channel that everybody got. That is why so many people at the time were watching that show. There was no like, oh, my mom doesn't pay for us to have every streaming channel, Crunchyroll, Hulu, Netflix. Like, I mean, so this phenomenon, I don't know if it could happen today in the same way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's just so much. The biggest change I've seen is the amount of content. So the eyeballs are not the same. Like, as good a show as Arcane is, it's never going to hit the numbers that these other shows did because there's too much competition. So it'll be interesting in 20 years from now to see what the Pokemon of now is, or is it even possible? Because the nostalgia factor can't be as big because your concentration is split between too many things.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and technology just it's not the enemy, but it's what changes stuff. It just does. I mean, the fact that like they wouldn't get us, you know, I wouldn't have, when I moved and I had to give up a role, I didn't have a home studio that I could have recorded in. Now they probably would have been like, okay, maybe you can keep your role, just make sure you have a good setup. All that kind of stuff has just changed this whole industry, technology in general.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're so right. Like there were literally no barriers to consuming this type of media, and it's really interesting. Like you said, in 20 years, I do like that is going to be really interesting to see like what else, you know, what is going to be the Pokemon. And
and not just that, like the cards the Pokemon cards kind of normalized things because they weren't insanely expensive.
Yep.
So a kid who had a little bit of money to spend could end up with an amazing card. Like there was something I mean, I guess it's kind of technically gambling, which is why they banned it from schools, but because they would do the trades and the things. But I love that everyone could feel included. That's kind of my favorite thing about it.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of like people that are so like they're purists about like animation now and and looking back at that time, and they kind of like like stick their noses up at it, like because it was so it was so accessible, and it was so like for the every person, like anyone can pick up an episode of Pokemon and understand what's going on.
Totally.
Like it was so accessible. But I think that what people forget is that, like, I mean, that's probably how a lot of them even like, which is so funny for me whenever I listen to Steve on the podcast too.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing. Yeah, so we should explain my co-host.
Yes, we should. Yes.
So when I was looking for someone to do the show with, I joined forces with a company called Maji Media, and they do the One Piece podcast. So you guys should definitely check that out.
Yep.
And I was talking to Zach, who runs the company, and I was like, I need a co-host. He goes, "Oh, I got your guy." And I was like, "Okay, tell me more." And Steve grew up he grew up loving Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And then he's a professional artist. He's a storyboard artist for Rick and Morty. So he clearly understood art at a young age. He was always, been someone who understood that. And he has a different eye than I do, clearly. But he loved the manga for One Piece. So he was excited and scared when he saw that 4Kids was doing One Piece. Yeah. And he was aging kind of out of the 4Kids. 4Kids was aimed at younger children. It had a afternoon time slot or a Saturday morning time slot. And he was livid when he saw what they did to One Piece. And he was like the kid writing on message boards. And so it's fun to co-host with him because, and also now he's come around. He understands the industry. He obviously understands why they had to make all the changes to get this on television. I mean, I think in his mind, they shouldn't have made One Piece. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't the right fit.
No.
But he understands that intellectually now and emotionally has, I think, gotten over it. And and also he knows these shows really well, like, especially Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon and like Ultimate Muscle and shows that I really don't know. So it's been so much fun to team up with him as someone who grew up watching. Yeah.
I know. And I love it. And it's just so fun. I mean, you don't see a lot of that in like, even in podcasting of like, here's like the person that like grew up with it and the person that like helped like it be what it is, you know what I mean? Like it's just really cool. Like the diversity in y'all's conversation, like you both bring such insight into what y'all talk about. So
good. Thank you.
Of course.
That's so nice.
And then real quick before we kind of get into the winks of it all, I want to ask you, so you've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people so far. On your podcast, and it's been really cool just to see the myriad of like jobs that they've had. I mean, not just voice actors, but you've had like audio engineers, you've had producers, writers, showrunners. Like it's been just so cool. What is one fact about 4Kids Entertainment or that era that you've uncovered on your podcast that you're either like most proud of or most surprised by?
Okay, so I didn't realize, again, I'm going to go back to the lost media. I can't believe that as late as like the 1990s and 2000s, we don't have some of these things, like a show like Funky Cops,
I know.
Which I think could do really well today. So we found like, I think 5 lost episodes. One is like kind of unwatchable because the VHS quality was so bad, but we uncovered some of these lost episodes. What's even crazier to me is that I guess Ultramantica just didn't do as well in the ratings as they'd hoped. So they had a ton of episodes that were dubbed and never aired. So we recovered one that didn't air, and then 2 that were kind of lost media. But that's been really fun. That's like the detective in me loves that. But I just can't believe that these things could just disappear into the ether like that. Like they must exist somewhere in a storage facility, but no one's going to let us in. And I don't want to get arrested for that. Yeah, I mean the weirdest thing. Tara, what are you in jail for? I wanted to find the Funky Cops episodes. It's
the Funky Cop episode. Oh no,
it's just it'd be the wrong reason to get arrested. But Funky Cops, the other thing I discovered that was like a staff favorite. They all because they were adults and they were like, this is fun. They liked that. So it is. Yeah, it's a bummer that this stuff just doesn't exist. I hope that like we're learning I think today it's archived better, but there's still like promos and interstitials and things that do just disappear because no one thinks to record them. Like I hosted a TV show on Cartoon Network for 2 years called Fridays, and I didn't know that people were like cared about seeing those episodes anymore. I was like, well, I'm like, I have a bunch I could digitize, and they're like, yes, please. So I put them up on YouTube. Just because I couldn't believe anyone cared.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of that's like longing for just like one, like, I mean, back then we were so like, we weren't connected the way we are now. Like, I mean, we had message boards for sure, and we'll talk about that too. But I mean, we were not like, there was a part of me, little Lola watching Winx Club was like, am I the only kid in the universe that cares about this show right now? Like, and so okay. Yeah.
I have questions for you then. So how old were you when you started watching Winx?
I was 9 years old. So this year it will have been 21 years since I saw Winx Club. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. Were kids in school watching it? I don't know how big Winx got. Did you have friends who watched it or not really?
Any friends that watched it was because I like evangelized them.
Okay, that's fair.
And I was like, you have to watch the show with me. I had this one best friend. It was like she was my bestie. We went to school together. We watched Winx together. She would come over to my house. We would watch it. I would go over to her house. We would watch it for the premiere of the second season. Like it was her birthday, and I got her like the new like Aisha doll, and like it was just like it was so sweet. And so
it was your thing.
It was my thing, and like everyone knew it was my thing, and it was hilarious. But no, I actually learned about Winx, and this tickles the marketer in me. Through a magazine ad at the dentist. And I was just flipping through, at my children's dentist, I guess. And I was like, there's just this full page ad of like these beautiful glittery little fairies. And I was like, okay, what is this? And then I tuned in that weekend to see, them in action. It was just everything.
You weren't watched. And so like, I think that gave you, because I'm very interested in nostalgia in a medical way almost, like
totally,
and what it triggers in us. So I love that you found it. I think that gave you kind of ownership over it in that way. You're like, you sought it out. And also, I mean, maybe you were recording stuff on a VHS tape back then, but it wasn't like you had this is my big question is because kids can see whatever they want on demand now, will they be less attached to it? Like, I feel like you found it. Like, you had to wait for it to be on. You had to wait for that next episode. I think that's what causes this nostalgia stuff in us.
It really, really does. Like, you had to be in the right place at the right time to know even about this thing. I felt the same way about Pokemon. I felt the same way about, like Mew Mew Power, Magical Doremi, like all of the shows that 4Kids aired. But like, it was like you were like in this like secret society almost of like in the know of like these things.
Right. Well, so did you record at a certain point? Did you start recording it, or were you always watching when it happened?
So they came out with DVDs. 4Kids.
Okay, so you did have that. Okay, good.
Yes, I am one of the lucky few that have like the complete 4Kids collection of my physical DVDs.
Winx. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I have some somewhere. I have to find.
Okay, shout out. We love.
I'm trying to get them autographed for charity at some point. I have to work on that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I have to track down people though.
Yes, it's hard. It's really hard. Yeah. But yeah, so I collected the DVDs. I literally was would look forward to them coming out. I would go to like FYE to pick them up.
Yeah.
When like Walmart stopped like having them in stores, and so it was just it was such a like special thing to me. But what really got me, and I'm so interested if you and Steve have any like interviews lined up for anybody that worked on the website side of 4Kids TV.
We do. We just recorded it. Won't be up for a couple months.
That's okay.
But I think it. Well, because you know about the Winx message boards.
Yes.
Well, I don't want to give too much away.
Okay.
It's going to be an interview. I think it's Jonathan Woodrow, but because that was the only show that had a message board, the people who were angry about One Piece would write to the Winx message boards, and it would drive them crazy. Because they had no other way to get through to 4Kids. So we have the guy who was in charge of internet. He was the internet guy.
Well, I cannot wait for that episode. Definitely tune into 4Kids Flashback for that. Because, I mean, the 4Kids forums and the Winx Club forums on, like, winxclub.tv, which was because there was a winxclub.com, which was the like European website, and winxclub.tv was the American Winx Club website that was administrated by 4Kids. And it was where I learned how to be on the internet. Like, it was where, like,
oh my gosh, okay.
If it wasn't for like that forum and like that time, like I don't even know. Like, I learned how to be on the internet. I learned how to work a computer. I learned, like, all these things, because Winx Club wasn't super popular, and I didn't have a lot of friends. I had the one, and I wanted to connect with more people about it. So the fact that 4Kids, and this is so special, I say this all the time, like, they did such a good job of curating a space that was safe for kids to be online.
Oh, wait till you hear how they did that.
I am so excited.
Okay, that, honestly, I'm not giving it away because it blew my mind. Let's just say that people were paid by the message to go through that.
That's incredible.
And make sure that certain things did not get on that message board.
Oh my gosh. Well, back then there was, like, message boards were such, it was how a lot of people, it was Reddit, but, like,
It's
before
crazy.
Reddit,
Yeah.
It's just insane. So I'm so excited to listen to that episode. So that's where Lola Valentine was created, because at 9 years old on the internet, the only thing my parents taught me about internet safety was, like, don't use your real name.
Right. Right. Yeah,
like,
we
cool.
have an interview coming up with Tamahiro, who did the same thing at a young age. Yeah, she's a Pokemon master, basically. But yeah, but the same thing, like, luckily you guys found a pseudonym.
Yeah. It was, and I didn't think I'd be using it 21 years later, but here we are.
Right.
But very fun. Well, Tara, before we take a short break, I would love to ask you a quick question, Winx related. I know I sent you a few episodes to kind of, like, whet your appetite for Winx Club a little bit.
Yes.
But I want to know, given your very, like, limited knowledge of Winx Club, who would you want to voice as a character in Winx Club, like, aside from, like, the fabulous voices who did it, 20-something
they're
years
all, yes.
ago.
And obviously no disrespect to it. So what I found really cool, and this is my own weird thing, is I love, and I do this on a show called Rainbow High now, I love playing two totally different characters who get to talk to each other. Okay. That's my favorite thing. So, like, I would have loved to be, like, Bloom and Icy. Like, something like that, where, like, they're totally different. Like, I love that Lisa Ortiz played two different roles and did a great job with that. Bloom is just fun. Come on. Who doesn't want I feel like she's the aspirational character on that show. Like, everyone wants to be Bloom. But yeah, I would enjoy that only if I got to either be, like, British as another character. Like, I love playing two different roles on a show, because I feel like I learn the show better that way, too.
That duality of the good versus evil, like, the complexities with those relationships, for sure. I love that. That's such a good answer.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to dive into all of the juicy details that Tara and her co-host Steve has been able to uncover about the 4Kids dub of Winx Club on their show 4Kids Flashback. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Winx Forever podcast. Hello, fairy friends. Lola Valentine here. If you want to just go totally nerd out about Winx Club, you're in luck, because I have a Discord server literally only solely dedicated to that. I have forums for every Winx topic imaginable. You can go on there, chat with fellow Winx fans from all over the globe. It's honestly a really fun time. You can find the link to join the Winx Forever Podcast Discord community in the description below. And remember, the magic's in you. And welcome back to the Winx Forever podcast. Today we are with Tara Sands of the 4Kids Flashback, but you might also know her in many of her roles, including the original voice of Bulbasaur on Pokemon, of course.
That is going to be on my grave, my tombstone.
Here lies
Tara
Sands,
be like,
the original voice of Bulbasaur.
When my friends, I have friends who are my age, so they didn't watch Pokemon. Yeah. And when they find, because they just know, like, oh yeah, you were Bulbasaur, because they've heard people say it or whatever.
Yeah.
When they find out that Bulbasaur said one word, their minds are blown. They think I'm kidding. Like, they're like, wait, no, that's the thing that you're like traveling around the world talking about. I'm like, yep, one word. One friggin' word.
But different inflections on that word.
Oh, yeah. That was... Who else could have done that?
Oh, no, I cried. That's so funny.
I was in the right place, right time.
Man, I know. And that's, oh gosh. Whenever I listen to the 4Kids Flashback, I'm like, man, if I wasn't freaking 5 years old while all this was happening.
Been there.
Ooh.
Oh, that's funny.
So goofy. Just like how I wish I was, like buying a house in 2008 instead of, being 12.
Oh, well,
so.
all of us.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Gosh.
No, that's another podcast. Yeah.
Yes, entirely. Oh my God. Well, cool. But we're going to talk about now, the
Winx stuff.
Winx stuff. So I have to say, okay. The Winx Club fandom will know. The 4Kids dub gets a lot of flack, like a lot of 4Kids properties do,
like
and
everything we did,
right? And a lot of it's unfair. And listening to the 4Kids Flashback, it's so apparent, like what was happening at the time to cause a lot of that. But two, like it's interesting to me because, like, yeah, I get it from like, especially like if it was a Japanese property and like a lot of those things were Americanized or whatever, like I get that. Winx Club was an Italian property, and there weren't like that many cultural differences, quote unquote, but like the way things were delivered, the way things that like were presented, especially in the first season. I mean, 4Kids got that first season, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but like in your interview with Alan Kingsburg, he's the showrunner of Winx Club at 4Kids. He was like, this is okay, I guess, but like we can make it better, and like it was just cool to hear, like, oh, like because I'm kind of like, an outlier in the Winx fandom of like preferring this dub, not only because I grew up with it, just because objectively it's better.
Well, that's okay. So here's my question then. What is, because I know like with One Piece, the hate comes a lot from the edits. So what is it about the 4Kids Winx that people are really pissed about?
People don't like that that the script was different, and mainly the first season, because in the second and third season, it's more aligned with what was in the original. But we'll get to that.
Okay, so so this is why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Were people really familiar with the Italian version? Like, were these fans, how did they know it was different?
Exactly. Okay. That's exactly my point.
Well, I'm so confused.
Yes,
okay.
So American audiences wouldn't have known that, especially people my age. Like,
of course.
They wouldn't have known that unless they went and did their own research, like I did. Like when 4Kids lost licensing for Winx Club, or it wasn't renewed or whatever, 4Kids, they advertised that season 3 was the series finale of Winx Club, which at the time wasn't entirely incorrect. It was entirely wrong, but it was still continuing in Italy with a full-length feature film.
Right. So that people were like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So
okay,
that's
it.
Why,
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So I was really bummed when I was a kid, because I was like, this can't be the end. It has to keep going. And so that led me to find like, oh, it's actually continuing on in its, native country and like, all that jazz. But yeah, so a lot of people find Winx Club either, at my age with 4 kids, or later on with the Nickelodeon dub, and then they go and they find the original. And then they find that awful is so relative, but like they find the original first English dub, which was done by a dubbing company in Canada.
Was that the ocean? Not the ocean dub. Is that who did that one?
No, so the Oceanic dub, we call it the Cinelume dub because it was done by Cinelume, but we also call it Rai dub because it premiered on Rai television in some.
Okay, so people hate
Italy.
that one and 4 kids.
People hate
both
4
of those?
kids.
Okay.
They like Rai dub because, quote, it's the closest to the original.
Oh, right. Alan didn't make changes to it. Right. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but
okay,
yes,
that's fair. Yeah.
It is, but it isn't, and we'll talk about why. So
okay, sorry.
No, you're so good. No, you're asking all the right questions, Tara.
Okay.
So with your interview with Alan, he uncovered so much that the Winx community does not even know, that they're not even like privy to, because they just write off 4 kids as being wrong. And
right, I see. Okay.
That's such a wrong assumption because of what Alan shared of how closely he worked with the Italian producers, how closely he worked, like adapting the scripts, but also he helped write season 2 and 3.
Right. So these were his yeah.
So that's why
he was a big part of it.
Yeah, so season 2 and 3 is closer to the Ray English dub / Cinelume dub and the Italian dub because they're the same scripts, because Alan himself helped collaborate on writing them. Yes.
Yeah, so it's almost as if they really gave his changes the stamp of approval, which people don't realize that maybe this is how they would have done it if they would have met Alan before they started season 1.
Exactly. And it's telling to me too that for him to go on and continue to work on some of the like Netflix iterations and also on the Nickelodeon dub, like all of that tells me like Rainbow freaking loved Alan. Like they let him work on their property for so long in so many different companies because of that. And people get so like twisted that Winx Club was wrong because they dubbed
because it was different.
Just because it was different. Well, but it wasn't different. Is right.
Yeah. I mean, what I'll say about Alan too is, we talk. Alan teaches writing. Alan's a script guru. Like he understands structure and he understands character and what you have to do to make a story go forward and certain things. And I'm sure when he looked at that script, he was really analyzing it in a very different way and looking at a big picture and things like that. So. There aren't necessarily tons of people I would trust to do that, but he is one of them. He really understands story and teaches it to this day because so I get people being frustrated because it's different, but I think it was in good hands. Oh, and I wouldn't always say that, but yeah.
I say that, yes, 100% about like everybody that touched the 4 Kids dub of Winx Club. I mean, even the conversations that I've had with people about it is so special for me to have those conversations, to know how much they cared about it.
Yeah.
Like as a show, like hearing your conversation with Alan and hearing him, like you said, like he was analyzing it from just a story perspective. Like he was worried about telling a good story and not just selling dolls. Like
yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like
and I loved that part of it too. First of all, I loved the detail we got into about the dolls where like someone said, oh, can we make the hat fabric?
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, that costs like a pennies more. But when you multiply that times 1 million or whatever many dolls you're selling, like I loved that detail. Like,
yeah,
because that's the stuff when you're like, why does this look cheap? Well, because that actually costs a lot of money to make it look like, yeah, I thought that was really fascinating. He had a great memory, luckily, of a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, Alan absolutely knocked that out of the park, and it was just so funny to hear all of these things. And I'm like, people don't know these because they just like automatically write it off and just kind of leave it at that. And then they echo what everyone else says, like, oh, it's because it's it's so far from the original, but it's not. It's just the first season that was like the furthest. And then because Alan was able to help form the scripts for season 2 and 3, and those are actually
like those seasons,
identical.
If you like those seasons, then you're liking his work. So
exactly. And so that's to
fascinating.
Me, that was like such a gold nugget, like for the Winx community to understand, because no one knows that. No one knows that 4Kids actually, I mean, through Alan and the other people, they're like, no one knows any of that. And it's just
I mean, listen,
hilarious.
If you're a Winx head or a wink, what do you guys call yourselves? Sorry, I forgot the name.
No, you're good. So we are called Winxers.
Winxers. If you're a Winxer, Alan Kingsburg is who you should be thanking.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is. He shaped a lot of stuff. Again, you can still dislike the 4Kids thing, but he went on to work on all the versions. So Winxers, your new god is Alan Kingsburg.
Yeah. And I thought it was so interesting because of all of the restrictive and like kind of vague like language in some of those contracts from 4Kids that he wasn't able to work on seasons 1 through 3 at Nickelodeon, which was such a detriment, because then it just kind of projected that whole like branch of the fandom like into, I don't know. It's a
bummer, man. I mean, listen, it's a similar contractual thing to why the actors from 4Kids couldn't work on Pokemon. It's these, and I think those non-competes and sunset clauses are not even legal anymore. I might be wrong about that, but
good.
I know. I mean, I get it. I get a company protecting itself in that way also.
Yeah.
But it's a shame that, like, in the Pokemon case, that 4Kids couldn't have said, we release you. You're still welcome to work here. We release you. Or with Alan's case, like, hey, we'll strike that. No one's going to sue you. You're good. Or,
I mean, by the time Alan was working on the Nickelodeon dub, I mean, 4Kids was dissolved. Like, they weren't even around.
Yeah,
like, it was silly. And, with a company like Nickelodeon, I know there's got to be, like, a ton of red tape that they don't want to,
and they want to be careful.
Touch.
I appreciate that.
I get that for sure. But, it's just so sad to think about, like, what if Alan could have collaborated more and earlier on the Nickelodeon stuff, like, where it would have been, because Nickelodeon is such a, I want to say a scar, but just like not a favorable time in the Winx Club timeline.
Okay, see, this is the stuff I don't know, but what about like theme songs? Do the Winxers have a favorite theme song?
Here's the thing. Okay, yes. So, the Winx Club, we've got like a couple of theme songs. And from the early 2000s, we've got the original Italian, and then the Ray English Cinema is the Canadian dub, show, and then the 4Kids. And there's this really obscure German one that everyone loves, which is hilarious.
Ooh.
The German one is kind of a bop. It's like, like that Euro pop, like kind of funky. It's really fun. But the music for 4Kids gets such praise.
Good. I'm happy because John Siegler's friggin' great.
He is. So
and that whole team. Oh my God, that whole team that music team was so good. That's the thing we've learned too, is that people might hate 4Kids, but they liked a lot of the music,
which is so funny. It's so funny. It's so iconic. I mean, the 4Kids dub soundtracks. Yeah, they they still get circulated today. Actually, it's so funny. You'll get a kick out of this. I have a Discord for my podcast, and there's a group of us that are, I mean, we're like super sleuths, and they're trying to find the original files for like some of these like songs, and even not even just like the songs with like
Ooh.
lyrics, but like the backing tracks for some of the scenes and things like that, like the score. Like we want like score files so bad.
No, we do too. We collect.
Yes.
We've been doing that. Like for one of our Sue Shufro, who was the music editor.
Yes,
I think we must have talked about Winx on that. She sent us like what her music library would look like. Like I just wanted a screenshot. Like I don't know if she was able to share certain things, but I just liked the organization of it. Like I found that really interesting. Like like happy trill, or like, you know, just the labeling process was fascinating.
You're listening to the Winx Forever podcast. So, I mean, it's just so fun to find all these little nuggets, and like you wouldn't really, because I mean, you're not a like Winx Club podcast per se, and like it's just funny to like, for me as a Winx fan, just over here like just like hitting my hand on my desk like, people need to listen to this, because like there's just so much about the 4Kids era that is just shrouded in mystery, because we just don't have any insight into that, because there's
Well, you helped us out with questions. I remember I reached out to you and you helped us come up with good questions for Alan, because I'm dumb enough to know what I'm smart enough to know what I'm dumb about. You know what I mean? Like fair. I know that the better questions are gonna, like we have a Discord for our podcast too. Yeah. The best questions come from those guys. Yeah. So absolutely. I'm always gonna go to an expert. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, why not? Like you exist. Why wouldn't I ask for your help? You know, I mean, and and listen, I hope you get to talk to Alan at some point and some of these people. Have you? Be a dream. Has that happened, or have you tried? I've
from the 4Kids crew, I have gotten to speak with Anthony Salerno. That was a dream. He was so kind. And then Karen Lin-Manuel Tackett.
Oh, good.
She good. Was beautiful. Stella is my favorite character, and her Stella specifically. And so like it was just a dream. Great. It was like, oh my gosh,
her voice. Yes. I mean, that was what struck me when I watched these episodes, because Lola sent me 3 episodes to watch of Winx, and the voice acting's great and it holds up. And I was nervous in some ways, because again, I know we get a bad rap. So those girls are great. And, you know, I have to say the one thing they did really, really well was differentiate the voices. They sounded like I can keep track of who's who. Yes. And that's the hardest thing in any of these shows. And because I work on Barbie shows, I work on Rainbow High. Like that's the hardest thing, is differentiating a bunch of teenage girls.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, they did it so well. And I always tell people, like, say what you want about 4Kids as a company, say what you want about, like, you know, their dubs, whatever. The people that were in those booths and like facilitating these sessions and editing these shows, I mean, they were like really, really freaking good at their jobs.
And sometimes listen, we had plenty of misses.
Oh, for sure.
We were also really young and learning. So like sometimes I watch them with a different eye, which maybe is unfair. Like I'll watch and be like, oh my God, for like someone's first directing job, that's really good. Or like for someone's first, you know.
Yes. I mean, like my first job, I was exactly like you remember your first job and what that entailed. And then you look at what you guys were able to produce in such a short amount of time with limited resources. I mean, like y'all were like doing all of everything.
I've watched my first Pokemon episode, and because it was the Bulbasaur episode, but I played Melanie in it. Like I was there actually saying words. Mm-hmm. And I hate my performance because I always do, but I look at it and I go, okay, for my first day at work, it's okay. Like that's how I look at them. Like I would redo everything. Mm-hmm. But it was my first day at work.
But too, to see the star power that came out of that time too. I mean, like you have Lisa Ortiz, who went on to
the best.
direct the whole Pokemon series.
Oh my God, yeah,
that's crazy. And like, I mean, Dan Green, who's incredible. I mean, so many people. Andrew, yes. I mean, Vasti Mompoint, who voiced literally only Layla in Winx Club, is now. I mean, she directs, she sings, she choreographs. She's incredible. She did the choreography for and was in the Weird Al Yankovic
Oh
biopic.
yeah, I saw that.
Like there's just
we have to get her on at some point. I follow her. There's just so many people, and I mean, again, I think it's because they came out of the New York theater scene.
Yes.
And these are just really talented people. And what's crazy is you don't even really realize how good they are. Like, we have our interview with J. David Brimmer coming up, who's like an internationally renowned fight choreographer. Like, and he's really great on the 4Kids stuff, but like he has this whole other thing he's amazing at.
Yeah. It's so fun. To me, I mean, listening to like you guys reminisce about that time is so fun for me because like I remember like jobs I had in college that I still like, I'll like run into a friend from it and like catch up with, or like we all have like shared bonded trauma with like that one job, and
right.
it's just
yes,
like,
of course, totally.
Like it just feels so like fun to hear you guys reminisce about it and like to understand like what that feels like to go through jobs like that.
Well, and I mean, honestly, there's people who have said no because it was too awful an experience for them, which is sad too. But I kind of wish that this could be cathartic for them, and we could talk about because also a lot of probably what they were upset about are things that maybe the audience could relate to, But
some answers for the audiences too. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, we went on a tangent. You had an agenda.
No, we're good. We're doing great.
Okay.
Well, I do want to say, so like I was mentioning, like you guys aren't like a specific like Winx Club podcast, but there's so many good Winx Club nuggets in your episodes. So I have gone through. These are just the episodes that I've listened to so far that definitely have some good Winx Club moments, and we'll just kind of go through them. So
remind me, please.
Yes, absolutely. We've got episode 11 with John Siegler. This is one of the the composer for like he's over all of.
He kind of delegated. Yeah. He was sort of. He did a lot of the theme songs and delegated a lot of the incidental music.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And so, but he did a lot of the music direction for Winx Club, but also for the shows the 4Kids produced, and that was really fun just to hear. I mean, like I said, the music of 4Kids is so iconic, and a lot of the Winx Club fans still love a lot of the 4Kids Winx music, and so that was really cool. We have Greg Abbey on episode 24. Love Gregory. I love that he kind of vaguely remembers playing Brandon, but I love, and listeners who listen to either of our podcasts with Anthony Salerno, who was a director for Winx Club at 4Kids, he will tell you, like, like the guys were there, but they were just there. Yeah. It's like they were just there. This was
not, they weren't why people were tuning in on it.
Exactly.
I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, they were just there for like something for the girls to interact with. It was the girls were the star of the show, and they were just like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like.
Yeah. Totally. Yes, of course. Yeah.
So funny. Of course, we have Dan Green's episode of episode 25. I loved that he recalled playing Sky, but then kind of went into the complexities of playing villains versus playing heroes, which he gets cast a lot as, which, he's got
so good at
heroic boomy voice. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
and then this one was so funny. And this is going to be another one of those like gold Winx nuggets in your episodes. Episode 27 with Erica Schroeder.
Oh, the best. That blew my. Okay, tell them this blew my mind.
Yes. So, apparently our girl Erica Schroeder, she got cast, and of course Erica was famous for playing Luffy in the One Piece dub of. Sorry, God.
4Kids
in the
dub,
4Kids dub
I knew
of
what you
One
meant.
Piece. Lord have mercy. And but she also auditioned and landed the role of Stormy in Winx Club. But then because she was traveling, got replaced.
Yeah. So she was doing a show. So if I'm remembering this correctly, please yell at me if I'm not. If you guys haven't listened to our show, this is like a hallmark of 4Kids that they would cast people and replace them and not necessarily tell them.
Yeah.
It just happened a lot. And it happens to this day in general with things but there's and sometimes they don't tell people, and it's just bad form. So, but again, I think people just didn't know how to handle it. So, but Erica got cast and doing a very different voice than what they ended up using. Wasn't it like it was like a Harvey Firestein kind of something?
Yes, it was very,
yeah, like something crazy like that. And she went to do a play, and they said to her, "Don't worry, you'll be back in time." And then there was a promo that had to be recorded. And meanwhile, she was in Chicago, if I'm not wrong, and they definitely could have gotten a studio in Chicago. Like, I don't know what the logistics of it were.
Right.
But basically, because she just couldn't do the promo, they recast her, which is bananas to me.
It's so wild. Well, I think what happened with that, and this is a little Winx insight.
Yeah.
So Winx Club had, like, a preview. Like, 4Kids would do this thing where they would have, like, a preview day.
Right, and
on
they need it, and it was a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the preview day was like more like it was like the characters introducing like shows and stuff. Like, hey, check out my new show. I'm Bloom.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
It's just that like the technology existed if they wanted to spend money.
Oh, for sure.
And today it would be super easy. Like, because I was gonna say, like, how the tricky thing is dubbing remotely is more complicated than just recording remotely.
Oh,
so
totally.
Even though the technology existed, it might have been very expensive, but that's what's so frustrating to me is there weren't like problem solving things. Like often people would get replaced, but if they had just said, "Hey, can you do this differently?" Or but I thought again, Erica's doing fine, so it's funny. Like, if Erica was like, not still very traumatized by this, it would be another story. But now it's funny. But oh my God, that makes me. I mean, it happened. The same thing happened with the original actor who played Meowth. Went to Chicago to do a play, and they said, "You can have your job when you get back." And they were like, "No, we're happy with Maddie."
I want to say, didn't Erica Schroeder? I have to look this up right now because I don't want to misspeak. But I'm pretty sure she did a character later on in Winx Club. I think that
I'm sure she did. I'm on the page.
She
too.
was. I was right. Okay. She was the original voice of Bloom's deceased sister, Daphne.
Yeah, but that's not as much fun as Stormy.
Well, I do have a Winx Club doll of this character, so and there's no Stormy doll, so I don't know.
See, okay, all right. I mean, it just was handled weirdly, but again,
it was.
It's I mean, I'm not gonna complain about it anymore, but it was a good story for the podcast.
No, it was so funny, and like I don't think anybody in the Winx fandom realizes that we could have had Luffy as Stormy.
Funny is that?
So goofy. And of course we've got episode 33. This is your episode with Jason Griffith. Love Jason Griffith. He's having such a moment with Sonic right now, which is great.
Oh my God! I know.
My gosh, it's great.
So cool.
I actually got to meet Jason at MomoCon last year.
Oh, good.
And that was a treat because I was doing a Winx Club panel, and everybody in the audience didn't realize that he was such an iconic character in Winx Club, and I got to tell them that, and then they all got to go downstairs and meet him.
That's so fun. I love when stuff like that happens. Yeah, because he's not known for that. It's like you forget they've done and I should say this too, because I'm sure your fandom goes to conventions. They make our graphics and don't necessarily ask us. So like maybe they knew you were doing a panel there on Winx. Like, that would have been kind of cool to put that character on there. Like,
right.
Yeah, I know. And again, we don't always know. So like, I always pick like if they ask me, I'm like, okay, go with these 5 or whatever that have a Funko Pop or whatever. But then without fail, someone will like come to my table and be like, wait, you were this obscure character in this weird thing that no one saw but me? Like,
yes.
It's so bananas. Yeah.
It's so funny.
Speaking of weird, Jason's great. Yeah, what's weird?
Yeah, Jason's awesome. Speaking of weird, obscure characters, so Michael Center Nicholas was in Winx Club. He played Riven, and I love that he remembers playing Riven. But also his role as Riven, when it was redubbed by Nickelodeon, went to Sam Riegel.
I love that. I mean, that was a completely just coincidence, really.
Yeah. So
that
funny.
It happened to be a fork, and like I wonder if Sam had auditioned for the original.
So Sam did a test for it, and then they just ended up calling him for it because
Sam, for the 4Kids version. I wonder if Sam auditioned for the 4Kids.
I don't know.
I bet he did. Like, I don't know if he kept a calendar like I do that says what he was doing.
I don't know. That's such a good.
He probably did. Although, wait, no, you know what? He moved to LA before I did. So there is a chance he wouldn't have been. Yeah, we moved not too far apart, but he might have already been in LA when they were casting that at 4Kids.
Incredible. I do think it's funny that they both played Ninja Turtles as well. Mm-hmm. So it's like Riven was like 2 different Ninja Turtles, and so also weird. Like, yeah, it's just so funny. We had a lot of like Ninja Turtle crossovers in Winx Club, which was very funny. Like lots of people. I mean, that's not uncommon for 4Kids, but Ninja Turtle specifically is very funny. It is but weird. Something that I did want to touch on was your interview with Sue Shufro, right?
Sue Shufro, yeah.
This is episode 38, and if you guys are trying to keep up with the episodes I'm mentioning, I do have a playlist in the description. You can definitely check out all of those.
Yeah, I didn't realize that they had I mean, I knew they had numbers, but they're just in chronological order, really.
Right.
But, yeah. I forget that there's episode numbers.
All good. But we in that episode, so Sue is a audio engineer, and she got to talk about how music was used almost as a character itself in a lot of these shows. Yeah. It helped really like guide the story along in like 4Kids shows, and I wanted to call that out because we've talked about how iconic the music was, but the music in the Winx Club, in the 4Kids dub of Winx Club, is so different than any other dub that we get in the Winx Club franchise because of
it's wall
engineers.
To wall?
Yes, because it's wall to wall because of engineers like Sue who are good at what they did.
They're good. But, I mean, it's interesting because that is a hallmark that we've learned of 4Kids shows, and it's good and bad to me because in some ways I like it because I find it, I like it if it's done well. If it's done well, it's great. But also I don't always, sometimes that makes me feel like you don't trust your audience because you're giving things away. And I think it happened with the Pokemon movie. I can't remember, I'm going to mess up exactly what it was. I think it was an end thing where they added music, and I think the Japanese originals often trust that kids or their audience will know what they will get it, and I think sometimes American audience we dumb it down sometimes.
That's so
and I don't know that and I don't want to say that about music because I do think it was done well, so it didn't bother me, but I think the instinct to add music is an American thing.
Yes, 100% that. It felt very like sitcom-y, in a lot of ways. And I think that's why like the Winx Club dub gets a bad rap sometimes, is because they're like, that component definitely feels more American. But like in a lot of ways too, the Canadian dub that we have in English has little to like, I mean, the music that they do have is very like incidental. Like it's not like, it doesn't help. Like to me, like the music helped progress the story along. It didn't really do much in the Cinelume dub. It was just kind of there. It didn't have a purpose, really.
Right. And if it's done well, you can have music and constantly, and you won't even notice because it's right and because it's good. And Sue is just very good at that. I mean, not everyone is, but again, it is a bummer because I think in general what 4Kids wanted to make sure things hit, so they would Americanize them in that way.
Yeah.
And maybe we couldn't take certain chances. Like, let's see with sparse music. Maybe kids will like that and they'll be elevated or it. Yeah, and I think there were also financial reasons to use certain music for licensing reasons, and so it would be interesting to see an alternate version. But Sue kicks ass. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's just so many episodes that, I mean, if you listen to them, I love hearing like their different stories of how they got into the industry and like, what was going on in their lives. Then you got to talk to Carrie Williams, who voices Flora. I would love to get Carrie on the show because I would love to just talk to her more in depth about just like the character of Flora and who she is and what she means to this audience, because she was, a brown Latinx character that was presented to us as young kids that we, didn't get a lot of, that.
And unfortunately, we were not casting the same way we do today. Like, I think today, obviously these would be cast more ethnically appropriately, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
shame they weren't. That being said, she did a great job with it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
unfortunately, she's like me. She doesn't remember a ton, but I think if she watched a few episodes, she'd be a great interview.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I know. I forget. I did get to interview Vasti about her time as Layla, and it was really cool because she was Alan mentioned her in the
she was the babysitter,
yeah,
right?
she was the
for those kids?
babysitter. It was so cute. I loved it. Yeah, just little things like that. It doesn't have to be a lot. Even just like having people on just to kind of put a person behind, like that, because I mean, to your point, like there were so many people behind the scenes, but also there's so many people that just don't know what the show meant to people.
Yeah.
And I mean, it could just be, I mean, there's a lot of characters on Winx Club specifically, but other shows too that like maybe were just like throwaway characters, or like they were between like acting jobs and they took a voice acting thing, whatever. Like there's a lot of that. But it means a lot to a lot of people. I mean, and I'd say all the time that like I don't even know if I would be like a marketer today if like I wouldn't have my profession the way that I do now if it wasn't for the way that like I engaged with Winx Club early on, online.
Yeah, you don't know who you're reaching. I mean, that's we're so isolated in our little booths, and we don't like. I met someone. I did fighting food-ons at 4Kids, which is show like people call it a fever dream of a show. But I met someone who's like, I became a chef because of it, and I was that things like that. That again, until these conventions or until social media, which is wonderful and terrible at the same time, we didn't get to know that stuff, and it helps us do a better job when we can imagine who's watching. Mm-hmm. It really does. It helps me, at least. When I can picture a kid at home with their bowl of cereal, I think we do a better job when we can imagine that. So
I love that. Well, I think on that note, we have talked so much. Tara, thank you so much for coming on.
And this was fun.
Yes. And any last word that you want to leave with us Winxers? Oh, also there's another What? In your conversation at the end, you and Steve were like, what do we call Winx Club fans? Winx Watchers is so funny, I have to say.
Winx Watchers.
Yes. But yeah, so Winxers, like I mentioned, but also if you are like well known in the fandom, you're called a or a Winxfluencer.
I love that. I love it. Winxfluencer.
Winxfluencer. Just to give you some more little Winx vocabulary.
I love that. So what other show? This is my last question for you.
Yes.
Like, what other shows do Winxers like? Like, are there shows in the same world that they're into, or do they hate them because they're trying to be Winx?
No, not a lot of hate, which is great. We love that. But gosh, I mean, Mew Mew Power, which is of course Tokyo Mew Mew, that was a big one. Love that show so much. Magical Doremi was really big. It's not called that in the Japanese.
That was skewed a little younger than for you guys.
Oh,
though, probably.
for sure. Yeah, it was definitely younger, but it was still so adorable. Bratz is really big.
Oh, right.
Bratz is huge.
So it's the same fandom. Okay.
Yeah, Bratz. It leans more into the collectors side of things too, because they had, it was a doll line first, and then it was a show, but it all aired on 4Kids TV. And then, gosh, what else? I mean, now, there's a lot of crossover between like Miraculous Ladybug and Winx.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's some, I don't know, but there's some.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Because I do that Rainbow High show, and I love working on it. And it's I feel like that's I didn't get to do Winx. So this feels like I love the girl ensemble-ness of it all. So female ensemble power of it all.
Oh, Monster High is another one.
That's
Monster
what I was
High.
trying to remember that one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I guess my final words are: I think you guys will get it'll be out in a month or two, maybe. Jonathan Widrow interview we'll talk about the internet of the Winx Club stuff. Yes. So that's my hot tip.
That's so exciting. I cannot wait. Oh my God. Well, definitely check out all of the Winx-centric episodes that I have tagged below. But also just listen to the podcast. Listen to 4Kids Flashback with Steve and Tara. I mean, it's It's such a fun trip, you guys. And if you are a nerd about like animation and like the industry and like even just like to hear how people got into the jobs that they have today, like it's just so much fun. So
Thank you. Appreciate it.
of course. Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of the Winx Forever podcast, be sure to follow it on your preferred streaming platform so that you're notified when new episodes are released. You can join in on the conversation when you follow Winx Forever podcast on social media. Do you have a suggestion for the podcast or maybe even a guest recommendation that you want me to interview? Then you should definitely join the Winx Forever podcast Discord community. Like, what are you doing? Go join it right now with the link in the description below. Like, go join. The theme for the Winx Forever podcast is the song Lola's Dream by the artist Comet off of their 2021 album, We're Going to Be Okay.